Everything is just bad, corny, boring. The actors don't even care about their parts or show any real interest in the show itself.
What? Oh my God.
I tried. That's with a Y, not an I. I tried. Really tried. From the first episode, you can totally see that they had no idea what they were doing.
Okay, this is just like the most contrarian hot take ever.
Seriously. The action scenes don't even feel realistic whatsoever. In fact, the characters look like they are performing dances. What?
I'm so confused.
That was a 1-star review from IMDb. Hello there, and welcome to Spoilers Intended, a podcast about series and films. I am your host, Andrew, joined as always by Ryan.
I'm the captain.
Are you?
I don't know.
And Steven.
No, I'm the captain.
I will be king of the podcasters.
This week, we are discussing Netflix's live-action series One Piece, based on the manga by Ichiro Oda. And yeah, here we are.
Here it is.
Here we are
This was,
indeed.
when they announced this back in 2020 or 2019 or whatever, a while ago,
Yeah.
I was like, there is no way
No, yeah.
this could ever be adapted into anything.
We're going to adapt a show that has over 1,000 episodes. Good luck, Netflix.
and over
Good luck.
1,000 volumes of the manga,
yeah.
which is just insane to think
Bonkers.
about.
Yeah.
This has been running for how long?
So he started it in 1997.
Okay,
and
that's
it
actually earlier than I thought. Man, this dude produces. Holy cow!
And yeah, the anime started in 1999.
Okay. So a couple years after.
Yes, and here's a synopsis for One Piece, and this works for both the live action and the manga and the anime.
Dual purpose.
Yep,
Triple purpose.
Triple
Yeah.
purpose. Hey,
Hey.
The series follows the adventures of the Straw Hat Pirates as they explore the dangerous oceans, lands, and beyond in search of the One Piece, a fabled treasure that will make their captain, Monkey D. Luffy, king of the pirates. But the Marines are on the ship's tail, and they are not the only. There we go. They are not the only crew searching for the One Piece. Armed with skills and an unbreakable friendship, the Straw Hats are ready for the journey and even more ready to fight for their dreams together.
Cue the music.
yeah,
Yeah.
roll the reel.
Yeah. That's a pretty good synopsis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like this show, it's been around for a long time. I've watched.
How far are you?
I've watched about 500 episodes out of 1,000, almost 1,100 now. Now I have kept up with the story.
Yeah.
And I do know what happens like up until that point. I got to the point where I just like, I can't
some
watch.
point you're
This is a full-time
Yeah,
job.
What if I have a job?
if you
and
decided
a
to
wife?
try and like watch One Piece now and you skipped every opening and ending in the whole show,
Yeah.
it would be, I think it's like almost like 5 or 6 months of just time.
Just like pure flat time. That's
Just
not accounting for
time.
sleep. That's
Yes.
not saying that. Yeah.
bathroom
Wow.
breaks. That's horrifying.
It's a
actually.
very, very long amount of time.
So
Yeah.
in response to that, Netflix
Yes.
was like, "So here's 8 episodes. They're each about an hour long, and we're all like, hey, I can do this.
Yes.
It's manageable.
It's
Yeah.
very doable."
But yeah, so I'm curious of what you guys thought about this, because like I'm a pretty big One Piece fan. I'm not like a super fan or anything like that, but I mean I've definitely watched 500 episodes of it.
You're the biggest fan of the three of us.
Yeah, I
so
do
that's
love the
safe to
franchise.
say.
So,
Confirmed.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. What are your thoughts? I mean, one of you
All right,
guys start.
so, well, I'll jump in. So, this is a basic opinion of how do I feel about this show, right?
Yeah.
So, my wife watched the first episode with some of her friends, and I
How
actually
dare she?
was kind of like, well, one, yes, what a sin. But two, was kind of wondering, like, okay, well, I'm going to have to watch the show, and I don't know if she's going to be into it. Because a lot of times when it's almost like homework for the podcast, she's not as interested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she came back. She was like, "Oh, it was really fun. We should watch. But I want to enjoy watching the whole thing, right?"
Yeah.
So I was like, "Okay, well, I'll watch. The first episode on my own time, catch up, right? And then we broke it down, schedule. We'll watch 1 to 2 episodes here and there, and just get it done. The first Friday night, we watched 4 episodes.
Nice.
It just kind of
happens.
Well, it's one of those things where Netflix is like, next episode, and she was like, "Yeah, next episode, yeah."
That nod is
All
great
right.
when it's like
Yeah.
the silent, like, yeah,
You're
just
on
let
each,
it on
either side of the
play.
couch. You both kind of look at each other, and your eyes
You
meet,
just
you both
know.
nod. And you're like, yeah, all right.
It's are you going to reach and stop it? You both look at the remote, and look at each
yeah.
other, and you're like,
We got 10 seconds to figure this out.
this is happening.
Dude, honestly, though, it kind of annoys me And obviously for their business model, they have to do it. But Netflix gives you like 4 seconds. They're like,
Oh, yeah,
here's
they've cut it
credit
down.
And next episode.
Well, I mean,
Like,
that's- yeah.
I kind of wouldn't mind letting the credits roll for a minute.
Yeah,
Netflix.
because a lot of
Come
times, like, you
on.
do have some good shows and stuff that have like content.
Like they put
and,
effort
like,
into
yeah.
the outro. Like I get it when we have certain intros where you know what you're gonna get, and the skip intro buttons.
I don't skip intro ever.
There are some shows that I will.
The only ones I do is when it has literally an abysmal intro,
Or
like
it
a
just-
terrible
it has
song.
no-
Like
Oh,
House of the Dragon.
Yeah, I skipped a
Yeah,
lot of the
I
intro
skipped
there.
every one of
Yeah,
those. Let me
those
tell
are
you,
terrible.
There's
Not
there's
good.
definitely shows that like I'll give it a shot though. Like 2 or 3 episodes, and I'm like, this is not growing
Honestly,
on me.
like a lot of the Star Wars intros, it's not that I skip them because they're bad. It's because they're all the same thing, and they don't add anything. So it's like, all right, whatever. Let's get to the actual show here.
yeah.
Well, at least with Andor, they had different music every
They,
single
did
time.
something, they do something
Yeah.
different, right? That's what I want from an intro. Either I want like an absolute banger of a song that I want to listen
Yes.
to, or do something different each episode as a change. Which, for One Piece, right? Each episode, the title card,
Yes.
they gave you kind
Yeah.
of an idea of
What's-
who the story was going to revolve around.
Yeah.
Which I like that. That was cool, but it wasn't
like that a lot.
necessary to watch the intro for.
Yeah.
So-
Well, because most of the time they always have the cold open and
then
then,
you get the title card,
then
yeah.
the title card.
Yeah.
Which was really cool. So, I mean, I
So,
assume that
pretty
you
big
enjoyed
fan.
it.
Oh yeah, we had.
I was gonna say you haven't said your opinion yet.
well, my opinion is
Yeah.
I watched 5 hours of this in one day.
Right, yeah.
By choice, right? It wasn't Clockwork Orange or whatever. It wasn't like we have to review it the next day. I gotta plow it
Maybe he
down.
just likes that. I don't know.
Yeah. Listen, whatever you're into, man, keep it out.
No
of
judging, man.
But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. I only have a very passing acquaintance with the anime because because the internet and people like Andrew exist.
Wow. I don't know. Should I
he's
be
just-
upset by
he's just
this?
here proselytizing.
I think that's what they
for
call
it.
a backhanded compliment.
So like I had a decent idea what most of the characters were.
Yeah.
And, like some of where it was going to go.
It's kind of hard. Like if you're even like familiar with any kind
It's
of like
such a
general
big anime that
Yeah.
if you run like in any kind of anime circle,
Oh, yeah, you're
it's-
definitely gonna run into
It's
it.
impossible to not have run into clips of it
Yeah.
or bits.
Be
and
aware
pieces.
of it in some way. Yeah.
Because it's been around for so long now.
It has.
Yeah.
Now it is not the longest running show.
No.
I think that's Detective Conan and Shin-Chan.
How is Shin-Chan the longest running?
Because it's incredible. It's great.
It's like I think that's actually wrong. I think it's
You talking about number of episodes or just total time on air?
there's total time on air.
Okay.
Yeah, but the Detective Conan is definitely one of the longest.
Has it been
ones.
consistent though, or are they like years
Yeah.
off? And
No,
stuff?
I'm pretty sure Detective Conan has more episodes than One Piece.
Just straight up.
I'm
Okay.
pretty.
Oh, that's
I'm pretty
terrifying.
sure.
That is. I just got a
horrifying.
shiver.
Now
Like, ooh.
I'll have to look that up while you're talking because I may
Yeah,
be wrong.
Ryan, get in here.
Okay,
Give
yeah.
some opinions.
Okay, I loved this show. I had basically what I would describe as just like tertiary knowledge of One Piece. I'm like you said, Steven, like I have watched anime, so like I've seen clips from it. But
It's unavoidable, right? It's such a
Yeah.
big thing.
It was there, but I had never watched a single episode, like sat down to watch it until after I started the live action. I was like, I want to check out some of the anime just for like my own perspective of like how well they're adapting it.
What does it feel like? Yeah.
Yeah, because I think I watched the first, I want to say 2, maybe 3 episodes, and then stopped and watched a few of the anime.
Mm-hmm.
That was across a couple days, but it was like the first episode, I was like extremely impressed immediately with like how much I was having fun and how
Yeah.
much I liked it and
Well,
how
I think they really sold out across the
Yeah.
cast, the production. They sold out to make this work. And I think you can see there's a real love of the material in it.
Yeah.
Throughout the crew.
This definitely has been promoted as a show or an adaptation done by fans for fans.
Well, Oda
Right, yeah.
is involved, correct?
Yes. So Oda was an EP for this show,
Yeah.
and obviously this is very much his brainchild. And he
it's-
wanted to
it's
have
been-
some level of
It's
control.
been paying the rent now for a couple decades.
while, yeah.
So.
yeah.
But the biggest thing for him, I think, was because he was actually approached to do live action One Piece back in like the early 2000s.
that
can
would've
you
been
imagine
terrible.
Early aught CGI.
Oh, no.
But I think the big thing for him was he was like, he didn't have an actor that he wanted. He didn't want it to be a Japanese actor.
Okay.
Just because he felt that, like, and we'll get into some more trivia for that. But basically, he didn't have someone in mind that would be that. And he also felt that it wouldn't hit the type of tone that he wanted.
Right.
And I think maybe he just got worn down, or I think one of the big things
The money
was
just
he
kept
met,
getting bigger. The pile kept showing up.
not sure that's part of it, but one of the other reasons was he met a lot of the cast, and he handpicked a lot of
I know
the actors.
The actress who plays Nami said when she met Oda, she was like freaking out because she's a super fan of the show and the manga.
Yeah.
So she was like shaking trying to like talk to him.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, again, not to say that's how I want to feel every time, but like that's good that you have that kind of commitment from the cast.
From the
they're gonna
cast.
sell out for this to be
Well,
right.
like, so I liked all the action. I liked all the cast. That to me was huge.
Yeah.
And again, I'm coming from like no experience
no
other than
real
just
experience.
like I know of the main cast, like of the characters, especially Luffy. Again, just seeing it. But I feel like One Piece was like one of those anime that like it didn't become really readily available over here until like after my heyday of like
it kind of all of a sudden exploded, and I had this moment when I was like in my mid to early 20s where I turned around, I was like, what are all these like straw hats?
What is this?
stickers?
Yeah.
So that's actually pretty much right when it hit. So around 2006 to 2008 was one of the biggest main arcs that happened in the anime happened, and that was around episode 300 something.
Yeah.
And so that's when it kind of got brought over here because at this point, Toonami was very successful.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we can actually market this.
Anime had started to take off in the States.
Yeah, but it was really hard to find it even streaming anywhere until like the last couple of years whenever Netflix got the...
Well, I feel like it was the Toonami generation after me. It was after I had graduated college and wasn't watching Toonami.
Once Toonami was on like Tom 3.0 or whatever.
Right, yeah. It was like that. So like slightly behind my era of like cranking out Toonami episodes at night, was when it got popular. So I came into it with like no predisposed idea of what it should be, and I was having a blast. And like I said, after the third episode, I was like, I want to watch some of the original anime just to get a feel for it.
An idea.
And I was like, okay, wow. And consistently impressed at what they did in this show, especially compared to, because it's the same production company that did Cowboy Bebop, correct?
Correct.
Wow.
Which is wild.
Not
the live
the
action
same showrunners.
Right, but the same production company.
Yes.
Okay,
because it looks like it's got 3 times the budget to me.
Well,
so it did.
Double the budget.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so each episode was about 18 million per episode.
Okay.
Each episode for Cowboy Bebop was around 6 to 7 million.
Why would they go so cheap on Bebop? That's insane to me.
I have a thing, and I think the reason why, no, it's not fact, this is just complete speculation.
Conjecture.
I think that Netflix felt that Bebop was such an easy thing to adapt
That they didn't
need to put money into it.
We don't even need to try on this.
It's going to sell itself. This
Because
is
they're
like
like,
Disney with Star Wars.
we have Yoko Kanno coming back.
Yeah.
Watanabe is totally fine with it. Whatever. We don't need to have all this oversight. We have, it seems to be easier to do than like One Piece.
Sure.
And
It
I think,
should be on paper.
Well, right, it should be,
And I think that they learned their lesson from the failure that Bebop live action was.
Yeah.
And they're like, we need to put a lot of money into this.
And effort. Like,
Yes.
why? Yeah, it's
Dude,
frustrating.
the
As a Bebop
first-
fan, that's frustrating. But like,
first episode, they did, I don't even remember what the actual scene was. I think it was, not to get into spoilers, but it involves Zoro, right? They did a specific angle with the camera, and I was like, did they just move the camera? Is this selective focus? Is this what it feels like to watch a TV show where people know that you don't have to leave the camera on a tripod at a
Right.
middle distance with like a 35 millimeter lens
Yeah.
or whatever? Like, holy cow, this is like a long telephoto with some wide open select. We just barely have like the side of his face or whatever. What's going on?
well, and like to focus on not just the production values, but even just the tone of the show and the casting and the attitudes. Like, I felt like the few episodes of the Bebop, live action that I watched, the tone was just off.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't there. Every character was so cynical. It was
they
to
went
the point
hard on the cynicism and like the
Yeah.
dourness of it, but they ignored that all of that took place in kind of a wacky,
kind of
zany
a fun
world.
Yeah.
So before we go any further, I have the longest episode counts, and One Piece isn't even close.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh!
Not even close.
Oh my
What's
gosh.
number one?
So the number one is
no, don't bury the lead. Give us start off with some suspense. Give me number 4.
Okay, fine. Hold on.
That is
I
burying
have to
the
go
lead.
through the list.
That's the opposite of the thing you said.
So, as a franchise, this is just
Okay.
going as a franchise. Gundam has
As cheating. As
1,000
cheating.
episodes.
That's cheating.
That's cheating. So
Get 'em off the
Then we're
board.
going to go to One Piece, which has at this point they say 1,043, but we're actually
Got a
like
little further
1,100.
along,
Yeah. So then we go to Pokemon at 1,200 episodes.
Okay,
Oh, wow,
Pokemon's
okay.
fair. Yeah,
I
that's
didn't think
fair.
about Pokemon.
Case closed or Detective Conan, which is about 1,100 episodes, somewhere around there.
Okay.
So about the same as One Piece. Then we have Crayon Shin-Chan at 1,200 episodes.
Okay.
Then we have.
And are they counting like the 15-minute little chunks of Shin-Chan as an episode? So
Yes.
like there's like 3 in an episode.
Yeah.
So they're counting that as okay.
So then you have
cheating too.
Chibi Maruku-chan, which is 1,400 episodes.
What was that now?
I have no idea.
I've
A
never
lot
heard
of these
of
are
this.
like from like the 70s and 60s.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Then there's Anpan Man.
Anything else we would have heard of?
Yes, hold on.
Okay.
I'm getting there. Sorry, this is like one of those weird slideshow
You
things
love to
that I'm-
see
yeah.
it.
Early wreck.
They gotta get
he
those
was,
clicks.
He was on the good one that I made him move off of it. Perfect.
Yeah, pretty much.
I love it.
So then there's Doraemon, which was 1,800 episodes.
Okay.
And then we have the master of episodes, which is Saizei-san, came out 53 years ago at the time of posting this.
Oh, good lord.
8,000 episodes.
Whoa, that's obscene.
Not even close.
All right, buckle up, One Piece fans. We're
Wow.
gonna need Oda 3.0 if we're gonna beat that. Good
Yeah.
lord.
He's going to have to turn into Dr. Giro and just turn himself
Start
into
changing
an android.
Yeah.
So the last thing I'll say about like my overall thoughts, and I want to hear what you
Yeah.
think, Ed,
Yeah.
is the test for me was I started the first episode, right? And I'd asked the wife, "Do you want to watch One Piece with me?" What's a One Piece? I was like, "Okay." It's so far outside of her wheel well, right? So I'm like, don't worry about it, you know. So I come downstairs, I press play, start watching. She comes down like halfway through the first episode and just kind of looking at the screen. Same thing she did with
Squinting,
Arcane.
yeah.
Like where she's like, this looks cool. And so she watched the back half of the first
My
episode with
husband's
me.
watching these kiddie things. And
Yeah.
That might should be cool. I don't know.
This looks awesome. Made it through like the back half of the first episode and was in. And
Yeah.
we watched every episode after that. And then we went back and, you know, she rewatched the first part. But like, she loved it. She laughed so much throughout this show. She she commented, I think it was in the second episode, because I had told her it was the same production company
Yeah.
that did Cowboy Bebop. And she
Yeah.
just looked at me, she goes, how is this so much better? I don't understand. And I was like,
practiced.
Triple the money.
yeah. I was like,
They burned all that money
Well,
to find out.
I was like,
well-
Cowboy Bebop had to die so that One Piece could live. That's what happened.
that's definitely part of it. I think the other thing is too, and this is absolutely no slight on the actors that played any of the characters
No.
for Cowboy Bebop, but I really think that it comes down to the passion for the source material.
Well, and because like John Cho has a passion for it. Like,
I know he
Yes,
loves
yes,
Cowboy
I just don't
Bebop.
know
which is
if it's
unfortunate
across
on so many
the
levels.
past. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because it's the same problem of like now that Bebop has been burned, you can't reboot it.
You gotta let it lay dormant for about
Yeah.
5 to 10 years.
Yeah, then
And
do
it's
another
like-
one.
and then
Yeah.
it'll come up. Yeah. Well, so for me, it's kind of like I don't know a whole lot for Bebop behind the scenes, but I wonder if it was almost not quite to the level of like The Witcher with Henry Cavill.
Cavill.
Cavill, however you say his last name. We've debated
Love it.
this
Every time.
every time. But it feels like this One Piece is like the anti-Witcher, where it's almost like
Yeah.
there'd be one person like, well, we should do it this way. And everybody was like, no,
Right.
absolutely not. You know,
Well, so Oda was very hard up on certain scenes and certain pieces of like the story that had to be in there.
These beats.
Oh, okay.
and
that's
there
good.
and there are other things that he was totally fine with omitting or changing or whatever. Mostly because like the show's runtime at the end of the day, it's only 8 hours worth of content.
Yeah.
which is really only about 30 episodes of an anime.
And that
Right.
doesn't get you through an arc in
No,
One Piece.
well, ish.
Or
yeah,
early arcs it
yeah.
might, but-
So the East Blue arc is basically 45 episodes, which is what we got here
In this, okay.
In this, and
So that's not a ton of paring down, really.
it's not a ton of paring down, but there's a lot of bloat, and there's a couple moving pieces that they moved around and stuff. They
Yeah.
added in a couple different roles and some extra side stories that we didn't get in the anime until like episode 300 or 400.
So they just kind of remixed it to get
A
to
little
some
bit,
stuff
yeah.
earlier.
To make it, I think to make it just a more cohesive story. Just because
Yeah.
if you went hardline into just like Luffy's story for the first like 4 episodes, and you
Right.
don't get any of these
You don't
extra
get
side
any extra,
characters,
yeah.
you don't really get like it's just going to go so fast.
Right.
So they needed to kind of slow it down a little bit.
Well, and you need
have-
the emotional buy-in for each character, so that by the time the show ends, you have like.
Well, if you want to have essentially a found family play here, where it's,
You
it's all
need
these
to
people
have
who come
them
together,
become a family.
and you have to have. You can't just have stakes in one character.
Yeah.
You need to build emotional stakes across the board. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Yeah. So
what did you think, Andrew?
Yeah. So just as a general thing, like, you know, I said I've watched a lot of One Piece. I've watched the first like 300 episodes about twice, maybe two and a half times, somewhere around there. And the East
Could've finished the
Blue
whole show by now.
the East Blue arc, which is the first 45 episodes, is probably one of my favorites, just because you get such a really good kind of emotional stakes towards the end with one of the main characters, and it's one of those kind of moments in the anime whenever you're first starting it, you don't know any better. It's one of those where like, oh, this is kind of fun and happy-go-lucky,
light and fluffy,
kind of comical,
yeah.
and then it just gut punches you, and that's kind of like the first watershed moment in the series where you're just like, oh, this is what this show's about,
right?
And it takes 50 episodes to get there, but when you're there, you are just all in.
Yeah.
Like, and there's no stopping pretty much until like episode 450 is when it really kind of starts slowing down and hits like that mid-aughts pacing problem that shonen anime had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so going into the live action, obviously we were burned by Cowboy Bebop.
Sure.
There's so many other live action anime adaptations that have not hit.
What the Death Note one was terrible.
Death Note was fine. The Ghost in the Shell movie was acceptable.
Fine.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad. Like, the production quality was there. It just wasn't...
again, for being one of the earth-shattering, groundbreaking animes out there, it was just okay.
It was fine, yeah.
Yeah.
So going into this, obviously, as skeptical as I possibly could be. However, whenever I first saw the casting choices that they made and the first, like, kind of teaser trailer, I was like, ooh, don't give me hope here, because this actually looks really good.
Don't make me dream.
Right.
The casting choices I thought were flawless. And
the casting was very good.
Yeah, after the first episode, like, me and Han looked at each other and was like, that was fantastic. Like, I want to watch as much as we can, and of course this came out pretty much the day that Starfield came out.
So it's just like
So
the double whammy.
trying,
of like,
we were trying to balance our time, but we loved it. It was fantastic, and going into it with the lens of I'm very familiar with like kind of like the story and like kind of the characters and everything.
Yeah.
I thought they did a fantastic job. Like it was a really well adapted to something that I considered was like there's no way
unadaptable. I would say
This is kind of almost like Dune dropping, where it's like
A
the
little bit.
unadaptable book, and it's like, oh, we did a really good job with this, and then something like this happens. And it's like, are we getting better at adaptations? And you like look off to the side, like, not you, Wheel of Time.
yeah.
Well, so the big thing is like the reason why I always feel that it's unadaptable is because Luffy, the main character, he's a comic. Like, he's just a Looney Tunes.
And I don't know how accurate the portrayal was, but like the infectious positivity that he has in the live action is what drew me through the show.
Oh, it's so good.
At least with the live action, and they kind of like mature up some of the characters a little bit more.
Sure.
Where Luffy in the anime and the manga, he's kind of a doofus. But like he's a earnest.
He's kind of a doofus in the live action too.
But he still has the emotional maturity to understand, like, and kind of read the room a little bit.
Fair.
Where like Luffy in the anime, he just will ignore stuff,
right,
and just completely brush over because it just doesn't. It's not in his mind. He doesn't care,
right.
And with that, I thought they did a really good job with adding in some higher levels of depth for his character, and it gives you whenever those bigger emotional hits happen later on in the season, you get it.
I'm eager to get into beyond the spoiler wall. We can actually discuss what actually is happening in those moments.
Yeah, of course.
But so I would say we heard it here. We got two casuals and a diehard. And we're all on board.
I mean, two thumbs.
We're all pretty solid. Yeah.
I feel like I haven't heard a whole lot of like, push your glasses up. Well, actuallys on the internet.
I'll get into that for spoilers because there's definitely some choices that they made, story-wise and plot-wise, that I think that were bad choices.
Okay,
but that doesn't mean that it was bad.
So is this kind of like Peter Jackson didn't include Tom Bombadil, and you have some faction of fans who just really want to see Tom Bombadil. And it's like, it's not super necessary to the story, people.
Not really that. It's really more of like how they're kind of molded the story, and it feels like it's going to pigeonhole some later choices. For what's going to happen.
So basically, what Ryan and I can't see is some choices may have been made early, and
that
it's
are
like,
domino effect.
Narratively, how are we going to get out of this?
Correct.
2 seasons from now, or
so
whatever. Yeah.
It sounds like all three of us are pretty positive on it.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
While we're still in this, before the spoiler wall, what are some things that you didn't care for that aren't spoilery?
So I think that the music for this was not very good.
Okay.
And that's gonna. Like in
feels like-
again,
see, that feels
this
like,
is looking through the lens of
right.
someone that is very attached to the original score from the anime, which is one of the best I've ever heard.
Because I would say the music was pretty good.
Yeah, see, I feel like that may just be some formative bias.
Absolutely, and
where
that's
it's
kind of the
first
thing
listen-
is like
first listen.
I understand where my position is here, so I'm not going to be like
because just from a first blush feel for the music, I was like, this is really good. Like this has got what I want in terms of like some piratey sailing vibes to it, some fun, some emotion,
and
like,
there's some really good tracks in there.
Yeah.
It's just for a lot of the times it just felt I was like, man, if they just had this track in here, it would just destroy this scene in a good way. Like, and it really hit it home because for me, music is one of the most important parts about any kind of like TV show, movie, whatever. Yeah, because it helps you feel the emotion that the characters are feeling. You know, if sometimes the acting is still a little new or rough around the edges, which all of the cast here are pretty much like new to acting.
Yeah. They feel like they're pretty dialed in though from the go.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So the only like minor thing I would say, and this is mostly talking to people that like either haven't watched the show yet and are on the fence about it, is I would say there are still a few moments with like the editing where it feels like a couple of these scenes could have been tightened up a little bit, where like they hang on someone's face for a little too long.
Well, I'm not going to say it's like amateurish, but like there are it's rough around the edges.
It is, and I think
they lack that polish to understand. Hey, if we drop 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 1 second, 2 seconds,
we can kind of speed it up a little bit.
We can move a little faster and feel a little more polished. And cumulatively, once you do that, you can gain a few more minutes of real time with these characters, right?
Well, and there was a couple of, I would say it's the anime to live action transition moments where like they hold on someone's reaction and it's a little bit too
it's a little
anime style. And I was like, okay, just a little bit of that would have been good. And we stayed on that a bit long, and it got not cringy, but it was like it started to go past the point of like being okay, got it.
Well, and there's one scene in particular which we'll get into in the spoiler wall that it did feel a little too arduous for them to recreate it 1-to-1 from the anime. And it's not the scene that I showed you guys before the show. It's not that.
Okay.
Those were totally different.
Two completely different things. But this is a whole different thing. But like where they really went shot for shot and line for line, and I feel that it didn't translate exactly how it probably should have.
Gotcha.
But that's kind of one of those things where it's like if you don't know. And you haven't seen the anime, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, it still looks
good.
There's
definitely been some moments in the show where things happened or hit, and we were like, boy, this is just like, anime.
Yeah, right.
You can tell, like, well, that's an anime villain. That's just an anime character. This is an anime moment.
Like, for sure.
Speaking of, like, those anime moments, the action scenes are phenomenal.
Oh, the action scenes are really
well done. Like, they feel like an anime.
They do one thing. Sorry, Ryan.
No, I was just saying, we talked about it in our own chat, but, like, the practical set building and like the like having people on a real set versus just everything being green screen.
Yeah. I do feel like the practical sets could probably have had a small bit extra polish.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But like, I mean, you could say that for anything almost at this point.
Yeah.
To me, there is one recurring thing that happens throughout that I'm not prepared to say that it's an anime thing or not, but I love it and I want more of it. We'll get into it.
Okay. Wealth, fame, power. Old Dodger, the king of the podcasters, attained everything this world has to offer. His final words drove listeners to the web to find spoilersintendedpodcast.com and search for the one episode.
Oh no.
We killed Andrew.
There's also links to Discord and Patreon and all sorts of stuff. Our socials on there.
Yeah, so if you want to join us on Discord, we have a whole bunch of slew of channels, spoiler wall stuff that you can go into and discuss whatever show we're watching that week before we review it, whatever. We also have channels where we can talk about what we're listening to, what we're watching.
Games you're playing.
Games
Andrew's
you're
just
playing.
like Starfield,
Yeah.
Starfield, and more Starfield.
We also have socials out there. We are on Facebook and Instagram. Links on the website if you want to find us there. But follow, like, share, leave a comment on our posts. Every week we put out a teaser for this week's episode as well as what we're watching and where it is.
And we are back. That is the spoiler wall, grand line, whatever you want to call it.
Jamming out to the grand line.
The spoiler line.
We have broken through the storms into the grand line. Yarr!
Yar.
All right, so before we get into spoilers, we have a little bit of trivia that that we can talk about. So, One Piece creator Eiichiro Oda worked closely with the directors and writers to ensure the show would be as close to his vision as possible. He gifted the 5 main cast members with custom-made shirts to celebrate the casting announcement, featuring illustrations of their characters, obviously done by him.
Oh my gosh,
which is
awesome.
really cool. Yeah, and talking about more of the casting. So over the years, he's kind of given hints at like what each character's main nationality would be if they were in
Real life.
life.
Yeah.
So Luffy is Brazilian. Zoro is obviously Japanese. Nami is supposed to be Swedish. Usopp is supposed to be South American or South African, excuse me. And Sanji is French.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
I get
those
the
are
French.
A traditional
perv.
French name, Sanji. Yes.
Sanji.
Well, I like French perv, likes to cook, smokes. Yeah,
Tracks. It
all
all
boxes.
tracks.
yeah. So whenever they were doing the casting,
All of
for
our
this,
French fans are so mad. They lit another cigarette right now.
Like,
Just
he
to,
doesn't even have a Beckett.
he's got the curly Q eyebrows in the anime.
He does, just
they
like
didn't
French
try
people.
To pull that over into the live
I'm
action.
so glad they did not
That
do
would
that.
not have
that would have
translated
been
well.
wild. Anyways.
But yeah, so whenever they were doing the casting, and I saw like all the people that they picked. So Inaki Godoy, Emily Rudd, Makenyu, Taz Schuyler, and Jacob Gibson. I thought they fit perfectly.
Ooh, man, they nailed. Like when I can see a character on screen, you'd be like they pass in the background or whatnot, and I'm like, that's one of his crew members. Like when I can line it up with what I have seen in the animation, that means that they have cast and also clothed them really well. Like they've set them up for success.
Yeah.
You know?
I think Usopp's the only one that I was not aware of before the live action. Like I had not seen any imagery of him through what anime exposure I had.
Yeah.
And so when he showed up, I was like, who's this guy? What's his deal? You know? And then like, I was like, oh, I looked him up, in the actual anime when I started watching episodes. But yeah.
Well, and they did such a good job with the costuming for each of the characters, where like a couple of them are almost 1-to-1 for like the outfits that they had, but
Especially
some of
like
them were
Luffy's main outfit, right? With the red vest. Yeah.
Well, so the cool thing about that is, so each outfit that he wears throughout the show are all different, basically front page illustrations that Oda did throughout those years.
Really?
Oh, that's cool.
So like each outfit is something totally different, but they're all like part of his character because they're all, like at the beginning of each manga, he'll just draw like a random illustration of them just hanging out somewhere.
Just doing whatever.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting because for a lot of animation, right? You typically a character has a set of clothes, right? It's the Dexter's Lab joke. If he opens his closet, it's all
And
the
it's
same.
just one, yeah.
it's all the same lab coat and boots, right?
Well, and that's because it's a lot easier to just have one set of character model.
Well, and it makes them
art.
far more
Yeah.
recognizable at
Yes.
the time. But it also feels really weird when you just see the same person. Like, you've been wearing that same shirt now for years.
Years,
Like, it's got to be rank.
That's Ash from Pokemon.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Or Spike just still in the same suit
Yeah.
forever.
Well, so whenever you...
There's no dry cleaners in space. I know. Come on.
Whenever you go and watch, like, I'll say, like, just any anime, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And you have your main characters and they change clothes a lot, that generally means that they have a higher budget. Just because they can hire
reanimating all
someone
this stuff.
they're reanimating all this stuff. A good example of this is Cardcaptor Sakura from, like, 2000. Every episode, she has a completely new outfit that they have to reanimate over.
That almost feels like it would get away from like the design idea though of like a lot of cartoons where like this is the character, this is their color palette, this is their scheme, you know.
Well, but so long as it flows, like I love how basically every time we see Nami on screen, she's wearing something different.
Yes.
I think that one works, and two, it like gives you more realism. It also just gives you a chance for you to see more personality of the character in a different moment from time to time. Like, hey, they're happy, they're sad. What are they wearing?
So one of my favorite little bits with Nami is up until the part in Arlong Park, wherever she reveals, obviously she's part of the Arlong crew and not Luffy's crew. She's always wearing long sleeve or short sleeve shirts to covering up the tattoo.
Oh yeah.
And then the second in the anime and in the show, whenever she
tank tops only, baby.
Tank tops only.
Yeah.
For the rest of the show, or bikinis or whatever if you get really late into the show, but whatever.
Well, that didn't happen in the live action, so.
That's for season 5.
Can't blame them for not going that route in live action. It'd be a little weird.
Well, speaking of seasons, obviously, it has been announced that there's going to be a season 2 at least for this.
Yeah.
And just based on how much they covered for this first season, we're probably going to get all the way up to about episode 130. It would be my guess of where we're going to go for that, which is fantastic. It's one of the best arcs.
So that introduces a couple of crew we haven't seen.
That could be problematic, but we'll get to that a little bit later on. So let's talk about season 1.
Yes.
What do you guys? I mean, it was just good. It was just a lot of fun.
So I want to bring up one thing because I talked about this before, right? About anime moments that don't always translate.
Right, don't always translate, yeah.
So we had kind of a running gag because they would do a lot of flashbacks, right?
Yes.
And the flashbacks were, I thought, great.
They did,
yeah.
They, I actually, strangely, I think Luffy's flashback character was maybe the least well lined up with his current timeline.
The way he kind of looked. That's Colton Osorio.
Sure. I mean, he did great.
Yeah, he did a very good job.
Like, he actually has a lot to do.
Yeah.
But like, there was a moment with like Zoro's flashback where it was like, did they de-age him? Because like this kid looks dead odd. Like young Nami looks basically what I'd expect.
Yes.
I've seen the actress that plays young Nami somewhere, but I can't tell.
I don't
go do some hunting.
I feel like the difference too, though, is that like, with Zoro, he's got the green hair, so it's obvious.
This is the joke, right? When they put him like in the outdoor dojo, and like they're all lining up, and it's everybody
There's the main character.
Yeah, it's like, Lauren was like, spot the main character because he's the only one with green hair.
Yeah,
yeah.
But like Luffy, before he has the straw hat when he's a kid, there's like nothing to like just immediately identify him as. So that probably
Yeah, well, but mostly I'm just saying, like, in terms of how well do they translate.
Yeah.
When I look at the kid, like, do I think in 10 years he's going to look this? I don't know that's true for Luffy's. The other two, I'm like, for all I know, they, like, went back in time and kidnapped this kid.
Same thing with Sanji's younger.
Yeah, like, Sanji, I can totally see.
I don't know. That kid had a glow up.
I mean,
he was a pudgy little kid.
Look at Neville, Harry Potter.
Oh, yeah. Right? That was a Neville moment right there.
Got to put you in a fat suit for the later season.
Since we're talking about Sanji or Taz Skylar, he is ripped.
Yeah, dude.
He had that one scene where he doesn't have the shirt on.
I was like, here it is. I was like, man,
he worked out.
He worked out ahead of this one. What day is it?
Going into the whole, like, the commitment, right? All the kitchen sequences with him where he's cooking
are real.
Is him.
Yeah.
Really?
He took lessons to be able to do that. And like,
stop taking my trivia. I was about to say
wrecked. But also, that's one of those things where when it happens, I'm like, this feels very anime, right? The focus on the preparation of good food.
Yeah.
Not just from like, oh, well, anime has cooking shows. Yeah, I get that. And like,
no, this was like
Western cooking shows, they're going to give you a close up of the food while it's being made. That's not what you get in just a film that isn't, like, if you were like, hey, we're going to do Interstellar, and at some point Matthew McConaughey's going to prepare,
it's like,
it would just be slop. He'd just slop something down and they'd move on with their lives, right? Like, they had all those corn foods. We crave corn, and they barely showed it to us.
So Taz Skylar took professional cooking and kickboxing lessons to prepare for his role as Sanji, ending up with a black belt in Taekwondo. He actually cooked for the production team while the show was filming.
Oh, that's awesome.
And there's actually some really fun little like YouTube shorts that they did with Taz cooking for the main cast.
Oh, cool.
Which is really fun. But the really cool thing about Taz is because he did all the kickboxing, he said every single kick in the show was his.
Oh, that's cool.
That's cool.
And one of the biggest things about this was every single one of the main actors did their own stunts because like that's why I think a lot of the action scenes actually feel really visceral and
They
real.
translate well,
because they can move the camera.
Well, it's the combination of not shooting on a green screen and the actors actually
You can put the
being
camera
there.
anywhere you want to.
Yeah,
right?
because now you can move around while Nami's beating up this Marine because she's actually doing it.
I actually have a complaint about that one.
Oh, do you?
why?
Well, so, and I do know, or I have seen, like, in the anime, right, you have, like, the Power 3, which is, you know, Luffy.
Yeah, Luffy, Sanji, Zoro.
Zoro. And she's considered one of the weaklings of the crew.
Yes. Well, most of the time she has to fight with her brains.
Right.
Then, yeah.
Which that's totally fine. I'm just a little disappointed, if we're going to go into some things here.
Yeah.
We got
Actually.
a lot of really good Luffy moments, Sanji moments, Zoro moments. I'm going to butcher his name. Usopp, thank you. I keep wanting to say Usopp, but it's not. Usopp.
I know, yeah.
Usopp basically was his character.
Yes.
I felt like while she had really big emotional cores in this, I wanted at least one really good sequence of her fighting with the boys.
So
Like where she's in the
she's in the thick of it.
So one of the big changes that they made was her personality. So I mean, she still plays the straight man or straight woman in this for
the voice
comedy
of
bits.
reason.
Yeah, voice of reason.
Yeah.
But her version in the live action is much more serious, where her version in the anime is not really fun because she's still very much the straight man in the voice of reason, but it really comes down to her overreactions in the anime, which is a very anime thing and it's hard to pull off in live action.
It's awkward, yeah.
But because of that, you don't really get a lot of comedy with her in
You don't get
the live action.
the comedic release
Yes.
that you get probably from.
Which, I mean, I'm, again, fine with that. I just really wanted to see her get in and mix it up.
Yeah, well, because in the anime, there's really not. She does have like some really good fights, but they're never because she is stronger than the other person.
Right.
It's
And
because she
doesn't-
distracts them long enough to get
Something
an
else
edge.
to happen, yeah. And like, it doesn't necessarily have to be, well, she has to get in there and flex muscles with. She didn't get to really. Like,
She
they
had a
little bit
good
of a
like fight
rumble
at the beginning,
start,
yeah, but after that,
But after that, she just kind of disappeared for those scenes. It was a little sad.
yeah, I mean,
but,
yeah, that's
maybe season 2 will get some. She's dealt with her emotional issues, and now we're ready to rock.
well.
I don't know.
If we do get,
Now I'm ready to kill people. Wait, whoa.
if we do get to like episodes like hundreds or whatever in the anime, like she has some fantastic fights.
Okay,
that
good.
are really really fun. That Usopp kind of helps her with, and like Usopp has some really good ones too. But they're a very different style of fights than something like the big three, like
Well, I
Luffy,
mean,
Zoro,
he
and
can't
Sanji.
just
Right.
stand in there and take and dish out. He's a normal person.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Well, yeah, because that's the thing is like you have to consider that Sanji, Zoro, even though they don't have superpowers, they are just superhumans.
They are essentially
They are
superpowered,
incredibly
yeah.
strong, and they just kind of do whatever they want. And speaking of Zoro, Makenyu is an actual trained swordsman and martial artist.
that's cool.
Nice.
Because he was in Full Metal Alchemist live action. He was in one of the JoJo adaptations that they did.
When I saw him on screen, I was like, this guy looks familiar.
He's
and
in
when
a lot
I
of
looked up
stuff.
his IMDb, I don't think I've seen anything, but I've seen trailers from a lot of the stuff
he's been in.
I would
been
say
in,
he's
yeah.
probably the most seasoned out of the main cast for acting wise.
So I know Nami was in.
She was in some Netflix stuff.
Because
She was on the HBO show, The Romanovs, or no, Amazon Prime.
Core cast, right? I mean, she's like 30.
Yeah, she's 30.
Yeah.
Which, going all the way down to Luffy's actor is 20. And everyone
So,
else seems to
yeah.
land in between, like
In between
25,
there.
26,
Because he was
27.
18 and 19 when they were filming.
Yeah.
And now he's 20 or whatever. And he's definitely the youngest out of the whole cast.
Which works because if you're going to be that kind of level of optimism and whatnot, if you're the 40-year-old, like, why are you still optimistic?
Joke's on you, Steven. There is no optimism after 40.
Right?
Speaking of Makenyu as well, he actually got 2 extra piercings on his ear just so he could have the
for the
3 earrings.
Scandal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You know, they can just do like costume jewelry.
No, but see, that's the,
clip-ons.
I think that just kind of shows the level of dedication that the cast had to this.
Well, and the willingness, because sometimes people are like, okay, you're paying me enough, I'll do it, but I'm not gonna like it. Whereas
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, I went out and got my ears pierced. Like, that wasn't. We had the jewelry's right here. He's like, no, but I got it.
Oh,
Let's
it's just
go.
a
The
clip
prop
on,
guys
man.
over here. I went out and found all these prop earrings.
Stupid earrings.
My whole morning. My whole morning.
The stunt guy who's all prepped to do all the punches and kicks for Sanji is like, I'm out of work.
I learned kickboxing, black belt. I'm not even a black belt. And he walks off mad.
The chef throws the knives down, walks away.
Yeah.
So one of the other things that I found interesting, a lot of this was filmed down in Cape Town.
Oh, really?
In Africa.
Oh,
Wow.
okay.
And so basically, where the show was filmed, the Going Merry, the Miss Love Duck, Baratier, Red Force, which I think is Shanks' ship, Garp's ship, and a lot of the other pirate ships were
All the
all
boats.
obviously, fit, like all real.
Yeah.
And they all had them down there at Cape Town, which is really cool.
That's
I
wild.
bet
You're
there
walking
are a
around
lot
Cape
of people
Town.
in Cape Town who are like, why is there a boat with a goat's head in our
Why
harbor?
is there a fish in the harbor?
Have you eaten in Baratier? It's exclusive. I don't know how to get in
Like,
there.
I don't even have a boat. I can't get out to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think so question, what was your favorite ship?
Ooh.
I kind of got to go with our vice admiral, our marine ship.
Oh,
here.
Garp.
Oh,
You
I was kind of
big
going to go with that
bulldog
one
on
too.
the front. Yeah. Because it's got a very like British bulldog vibe going on with it. And of course, his character is also
And
just
he wears the hat with the
so some of it.
Okay, that was definitely. I was like, "There's got to be something in the anime where this guy wears a
it's-
dog hat."
that's
It's
just
the
his whole
moment,
thing.
the moment when he like walks out. I don't know. He like walks out onto the deck or whatever. He's dressed like that, and then his like second in command behind him looks like a noir detective who just put a cape on over.
Yeah.
I'm like, boy, there are some normies out there who are just like, what in the heck? Where I'm just like, yeah, that's anime.
That's anime.
So the thing that I always found great about One Piece as just a franchise is that it's so absurd with its character designs.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of one of the detriments that happens with the show or the anime is that there's so many characters because Oda loves character creation.
He keeps coming
Right.
with new
and he just
ideas.
keeps coming up with new designs.
Sure.
So it bloats everything.
Everything turns into like
Yeah.
such a huge cast. that-
Because some of the character designs are absurd.
Oh, sure.
Well, but I mean, we not just talking about, like, oh, well, I put on a hat or whatever
Yeah.
the phrase is. Like, look at like the prosthetics on the Fishmen, like all of Arlong's crew.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
they went hard on that.
really did.
and I think it paid off a lot.
It did.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, like you get a weird angle where they looked like they had kind of elephantitis or whatever.
Yeah, there's some like, is that a disease or like?
but then
doctor.
for the like I'd say like 85% of the time, it really hit the mark. Especially
I still
Arlong.
prefer it to like them trying to do it with CG
Oh,
or
gosh, yes.
something
by
like that.
quite a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Please give us like real things.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And then
Now,
you
the-
also have characters like Mihawk.
Oh, he is
It's
like a
just
1-to-1 out of
A
the anime.
classic,
Really? Okay.
Like, this dude is just anime. Like, when you're like, so what are the kids watching today? It's like, anime.
Well, like,
The
I had this
angled
moment.
sideburns, man.
I had
it's
this
just-
moment where he was there, and I was like, if they changed his character from the show, they changed it to be more anime because this is
no
like,
way.
there's
Oda's
no
like,
way.
That's such a good idea.
Yeah.
No.
No, he is 100% 1-to-1 anime.
So, question in the because my wife jumped on later, we went back and rewatched part of like episode 1, the part she hadn't seen the front
Yeah.
half before we finished. I got to see the Gold Roger whole thing
Yeah.
again, and there's people in the crowd, and I was like, oh, there's that character
Yeah,
because
Shanks is
characters
in the
I hadn't even
crowd.
met yet. Is Mihawk in there? Is he
Yes,
the guy
yes.
that doesn't? But he doesn't have the same sideburns. He just has like the
he
okay.
has kind of the slick back hair or whatever.
But that is supposed to be
that
him.
is
Okay.
yeah.
He was different enough to where I was like, I can't confirm that that's young Mihawk, but I think it is.
Yeah, and in that little scene, there's a couple other characters that you haven't met yet that we'll
Right.
meet in season 2.
Okay. Yeah.
That are kind of more hints to what's to come.
to where they're going to go.
Well, to that, so I don't know. Did we get everybody's favorite ship on the board here?
Oh, I was going to say
sidetracked.
Alvida's actually.
The Love Boat.
Oh, Love Boat's cool.
The Love Boat's really cool.
For me, it's the Going Merry. I love.
mean,
it.
it's-
I love the Going
Go
Merry so
boat!
much. It's definitely one of those where it has such a unique design to it, and they captured it so well because like I remember when my friend recommended me to watch One Piece
Was it
back in the
Scott?
day. No, it wasn't. It was one of my friends, Jeff, and he was like, "Man, you really got to try One Piece." And I'm like, every time I look at it, I just don't like the design.
stupid.
Yeah.
It just looks too cartoony. He's like, "No, just trust me. Give it." 40 episodes or whatever.
Which is like
The true
again.
anime commitment. Give me 4 seasons.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things like, fine, I'll try it. And then I kid you not, One Piece was one of the first like anime that have just made me cry my eyes out. And part of it is because of the attachment that you get to the Going Merry.
Yeah.
And some of the other stuff that happens later on the show.
Yeah.
And it's just always had one of those like parts in my heart.
Yeah.
And just seeing it real was just so cool.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I love the bit right at the end of the last episode where Luffy slides down the neck of it, and you can tell in that moment that the actor has a moment where like, yeah, I nailed it. Like he's proud of himself for
Yep.
making the slide work, but also it really just drives home how much, this is just built. Like
Yes.
he's
Yeah.
just doing this.
Well, it makes such a big difference because if this was like a smaller set that you didn't have the
just a
actual
bunch of green
ship,
screen boxes and they just lined his legs up.
Well, and,
Yeah.
and you can't get these nice sweeping shots of the ship.
Out sailing,
Yeah, and it makes such a big difference, I think. And
So,
go ahead.
In the same vein as the boats, what is your favorite non-core crew member character?
Buggy.
Buggy.
Oh no,
Team Buggy.
The chef at the
Chef.
Baratier.
Chef Seth.
Yeah, chef. He was like, he got on my nerves initially because I was like, oh, let him alone. And then like you see the island story, and I was like,
Oh, man.
this is my guy. This
turn.
mustache
What a
is
turn.
incredible. What a turn! That was my dude.
The
Yeah.
backstory for Sanji is brutal. It's
Yeah.
so good.
He's just
Yeah.
a great Viking chef pirate.
Yeah,
right?
loved it. Loved
Chef
that guy.
Seth, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah,
Buggy.
no, Buggy.
I'm so glad. in
Buggy was
the-
very unsettling looking. Like
I
compared
loved
to
it.
like when I
Loved
saw
it,
pictures
though.
of him in the anime, I was like, okay, he's like a clown. And here's like, it's like the makeup's all splotched and like his teeth are bad. And I'm like,
they
yikes.
they went hard on it, and two,
Yeah.
the actor absolutely kills it.
Yeah.
Every
Yes.
time he is on screen. It's like
Jeff Ward.
Jeff Ward.
Yeah.
He is like killing it. I'm so happy that one, he shows up later, and then they also at the end of the season with a little like teaser or whatever thing. They show him in like so like does he come back around in the anime? Is this a recurring thing?
Buggy is very much a big player later on.
Awesome.
Okay, good.
Yes, and he shows up multiple times throughout the show. He's never like, I'm not going to say he's not like a recurring villain.
Like a final boss, but he's
Yeah.
going to be relevant.
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect. That's all I need. That's all I need to hear.
And it's one of those things where they actually changed his character substantially from the anime.
Oh, yeah?
He's a lot more comical in the anime and kind of cowardly, where this one obviously much more aggressive.
I mean, he's
still
pretty,
cowardly.
He's pretty cowardly. Just give me to my body. I'll help
he's
you.
much
I
more
promise.
crass in this, and I loved it.
It's so
Yeah.
good.
Like Jeff Ward really sold it out.
Yeah, I thought he did really good.
yeah.
So comparing it to the anime, we watched a scene
Yeah.
before. So let's talk about that first
Okay.
off, and then get into some other possible changes. and
Okay,
stuff.
yeah. So it wasn't even really a change. It was really more the tone of the each scene. So basically, this is the final scene of the show of live action, and then episode like 53, one of the last bits of the episode, essentially where they're all kind of gathering up on the going merry to go, on their grand
It's
adventure.
where they put the feet on top of the barrel.
Yes.
They do a
Yeah.
cast-off
The
ceremony,
cast-off,
which I don't know if that's a real thing. I tried to Google it, and I couldn't come up with anything.
It could be. I mean, it could just be a thing that
they came up with. I don't know.
Yeah,
or
I
like
don't know.
a pirate lore. I don't know. But I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
So I want to hear Andrew's opinion as a dyed-in-the-wool, diehard fan.
So one of the big things whenever, you're kind of watching these shows and you have such intimate knowledge of like these other scenes. And I remember watching One Piece. This was after, basically you have the big watershed moment with Nami. I'm like fully emotionally invested by this point watching the anime. And then you have this big moment with them kind of in this grand storm that has swept through and pushed them out to sea essentially from a bit in the show that we haven't even seen yet.
Yeah.
Which will happen in season 2.
Sure.
So it's weird that we've already had this scene already of them like kind of like coming together and putting their feet on the barrel
Yeah.
and like talking about their dreams and where they want to go and that kind of thing. But I think both of them worked really well because you still get the good emotional core from our characters in the show.
Yeah.
And then you have it's a different vibe is the
Well,
best
like,
way to
very
describe
I was
it.
going to say,
vibe,
like,
yeah.
having no context with the anime, like watching them back to back, I much prefer the live action because at least I have the emotional connection to each of their individual dreams that we've covered in their backstories, and we see the kid versions of them at the same time. And so it's like,
that was such a good touch.
oh, yeah.
So
Like
is that something you get in the anime?
No.
Okay, so then they did a phenomenal job of adding those pieces in.
Well,
it
no, you
ties-
get the backstory, but you don't get
you don't
those
get the
cutaways.
flashbacks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because that ties the emotional core of the show for every character back together in this one moment, and they're all coming together to be friends.
See,
And it's like,
and so-
to me, that was like great.
Andrew, you referenced, where it lands in the anime is a little further ahead. It's kind of weird. So I think personally for me, this is a scene that Oda was like, I want this to be in here.
And this
if
needs to be the end of the
If we
season.
don't get renewed for the season, then if this is the point at which it sends off on, then we did it. And
that's what I think.
As far as I'm concerned, Luffy's still out there living. Luffy's still out there living his dream. Right?
Exactly, and I think that was the right choice.
I do too. Yeah,
because like when I wanted to show it to you, it wasn't like, oh, this one's better than this one.
No, yeah.
Because it was
there was differences.
The vibe is, I mean, it's a dark, stormy sea. They're in the rain.
Yeah.
Whereas this one is much more of a bright, cheery, golden light afternoon kind of thing.
Well, so the big thing here is, and this kind of goes back to my my comment about music and the overall soundtrack, because so let's listen to the show first.
The anime or the live action?
The live action.
Okay.
So whenever I say show, I mean live action.
Got it.
Whenever I say anime.
Okay. This song is called "We Are" off of the soundtrack.
Yeah. So this is basically pulling just a cover of the opening for the anime, which is great because it's a really good song.
It's a good song, yeah.
It really gives you kind of that romance feel, and that's what you want out of a pirate show that's about grand adventure.
And now, when you say romance, we're not talking love. We're talking
the open seas.
Love of adventure, the open sea, not mwah, mwah, mwah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it is a little more, Steven.
You don't get in there and kiss that salty sea. And
now this is the.
So this is the track, which is To Become the King of the Pirates, which is one of the main overarching themes for One Piece, the anime.
Okay.
But it's definitely one of those where it's much more orchestral.
Okay, yeah. So what's interesting is listening to this, you can see where this would have worked in the live action. Mm-hmm. This has a very hook feel to it because it's got a lot of John Williams in it.
Just those strings right there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you get the French horns coming in behind it.
There's the Williams.
Yeah, and definitely because it came out late '90s, and this is kind of one of those pieces where whenever I hear this and then I hear stuff from the show, I'm just like, I really wish that they had maybe a bigger budget to have a much larger orchestral soundtrack,
or just take the track from the anime.
You don't know what the licensing might be an issue there.
True.
But I would be intrigued to see if season 2, now they know it's a success, it's well received.
If they're going to get maybe a little bit more,
maybe a little more budget, and pull stuff like that in, where they're like, hey, people are enjoying this. No one's really complaining. They're almost complaining that we didn't do enough with the anime. Let's bring in more. You know.
Yeah. So and there's one more track from the anime that I want you to play, and I send it to you. It's just you can just play it directly from the opening or whatever. Okay. But it's basically called To the Grand Line, which is a little bit more of an ominous kind of not adventure.
So this isn't the happy-go-lucky To the Grand Line. This is hey, this is going to be a challenge.
Yeah. This is these are the challenges to come, kind of, and it takes a little bit to get going, but once you do, you get kind of the little here it is right here.
Somber. Okay, yeah.
Oh,
just go full Halo on us. Yes, that's a very different tone.
It is
most of the live action.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing is I don't think this track would work very well.
Yeah, I think the prior track would have.
It would have been fine.
You could just plop that right in there.
But this is one of those where it just doesn't have the same tone because there's not a lot of mystery yet.
Yeah.
And then here it is. Now you can use this
So that's almost like the break in the clouds and the sun comes out.
Right. Yeah.
Romance.
Yeah.
This is what kind of
the sun
embodies
glitters
it.
Across the sea. Yeah.
But it's still very much kind of similar to James Horner from Mask of Zorro. Kind of.
Yeah, I can see that.
And obviously this all came out in the mid-90s, so it's very much in that same kind of realm.
Yeah.
And because whenever you have people like me that are intimately familiar with their source material, I'm like, oh man, this would be so good for To the Grand Line. But then at the same time, it doesn't really always fit the tone because this is definitely a very different style of show than what the anime is.
Yeah.
Okay. So I because I thought about it in the middle of all that, and I'm guilty of doing this on many episodes where prior to the spoiler, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll talk about that afterwards. Then I forget. I wanted to bring this up because it felt it was very Borderlands and Bullet Train where they did character intros with their wanted posters.
Oh, I loved it.
And then they interact with the wanted poster. Either they crumple it out of the air or they rip it's a piece of junk floating
Yeah.
from them, they rip it in half. I loved it in terms of just telling us about the character, because like when one of these hits and it's like bounty 30 million, like, oh, this dude's serious. Bounty 5 million. We don't need to take this guy too seriously, you know.
Well,
Right, but it also pays off at the end when Luffy gets his.
His,
So it's
yeah.
like you've been seeing it represented that way. So when it happens, you're like, yeah.
Well, and then everyone saw like Mihawk coming up to Shanks's crew,
Yeah.
and like showing him it, and they all start celebrating. Like everything about that's just great.
Well,
Yeah.
because at this point they're all career pirates. They relish in the fact that the
I'm more
world
of a
government
career pirate.
that they relish in the fact that
I
the world
dabble.
government
It's more of a
wants
weekend
them.
hobby.
I steal vertical integration and synergize with other companies. I'm a career pirate.
Well, so
Please don't ever.
even outside of the like the monetary value tied to their like name or whatever, you also get a little bit of insight into how the character interacts with stuff immediately, because how they tear it away from the how
they react to it,
how they react to the wanted poster and how they get it off the screen.
It gives you some characterization and gives them a moment to react. You get kind of like this big scowl or whatever.
And it's great because you have such a good little world building piece without any dialogue.
Yes.
Right,
Yes.
It was
And
very
it's-
smartly done.
So, so I have to ask though, is that something in the anime?
No.
Okay, so that's unique.
Well, it depends. Maybe.
Or maybe like it's happened a few times,
happens
but
a
it's not
couple
with the
times.
regularity that we see in the live
It
action.
is not like a fourth wall break.
Gotcha.
Got
yeah.
it, okay.
Yeah. So for this, then I think it's very well done.
I think so too, because this is just them, the showrunners, Stephen Maeda and Matt Owens, kind of leaning into the kind of extra realism that anime is.
Yes.
And just saying, we know what we're about, and we
mean,
know that this show is ridiculous.
When your main character is made of rubber and takes nothing seriously, like just lean in, right?
Yeah.
Like don't try to pull this back and be like it needs to be darker and grittier. Like,
Right.
hold on now.
So I have a question for you.
All right.
The big watershed moment for the anime is obviously Nami's arc, and the big moment whenever Luffy gives her the straw hat, and she is finally just
Like,
broken
committed
down
to the crew.
Yeah, committed, and just please help me because I have nothing. I can't do anything now. What did you guys think about
Oh
this?
man, dude, the bit where she starts stabbing herself where the tattoo is was like, whoa. Because like for the most part, I mean, there were some tense moments, but it's pretty light-hearted
Yeah.
throughout. But like her whole arc from basically the introduction in the flashback of her sister and her mother, where it's like, well, at least one of these people is gonna die.
Yep.
Yeah.
You just go ahead and just rip the Band-Aid on that. It's going to happen. And we're going to get this. Like, that was a very, very emotionally heavy. Because, like, Zoro's background has some emotion to it, but when they're just like, I mean, we actually like laughed because her sensei walks in, it's like she died in an accident. Like,
Yeah, I did
what?
too. I was like, wait, was it like
Give
a
me little
forklift
more?
accident?
Yeah,
What are we
like,
talking
Like,
about?
like
To
a
be
warehouse
fair-
shelf collapse?
Yeah.
Or like what?
It is that quick of a rug pull in the anime too. There's no build
They
up.
don't let him try. Okay.
Yeah, no build up.
So
She
like,
tripped real hard.
You know those stairs going up to the monastery? Yeah,
No,
every
I mean,
one of them.
I'm pretty much that's what it was. She just tripped down the stairs and
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
yeah,
well,
and just died.
whatever.
if I wish I had my sword. Yeah.
So like something like that where it's just like, okay, like he has his emotional core, but it's
Yeah.
also in the background like okay kind of moment. And then
Yeah.
you have hers fleshed out as it is where it's like, whoa, like this is some heavy stuff going on in
Well,
here.
particularly
Yeah.
because she's not related to Belmare, which is her mom, and then
her sister,
or
none of them
Nojiko
are related, yeah.
they're just found family, which
Yeah.
just really hammers home just the whole point of the show.
Well, and I mean, she is kind of floating from found family to found for
Yeah.
different reasons, right? From her actual found family to Arlong's gang
to the Straw Hat
the
crew.
Straw Hat crew. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, also
for me,
her
it was
pushing
okay.
back.
Yeah.
Like I liked her arc like you say, like it was the most fleshed out for sure.
Yeah.
But like for me, that moment was like pretty good.
Yeah.
But it didn't hit like when she was stabbing her arm to get rid of the tattoo. I was like, okay. I don't know if it's because you had sent me a clip of the anime and I already knew
Kind of like
that
the
scene
context of it.
specifically was
okay.
coming. So it like okay.
You didn't have the initial.
Yeah, I
shock
didn't have
moment.
the shock value of
Yeah.
it. So I don't know if that dulled it or if it was just like the execution could have been a little better.
I think it could have been a little bit tighter.
Yeah.
Because there's like one or two like weird cutaway shots where like we didn't like it was just weird perspectives. But
Yeah.
like again, like that's one of those things where it's like I don't want to let that bring me down, just because like I have intimate knowledge. I've watched this scene so many times over the years, and it's definitely one of those where like it's one of my favorite moments. And whenever a new friend is getting into One Piece and they're like, oh, I want to try One Piece, I'm like, 40 episodes. That's all you got to do. If you don't like it after 40 episodes, you're not going to like the show.
Right.
Like, but I mean, I thought it did, just from my perspective, I thought it did really, really good for the most part. You know, there was some stuff that they could have done a little bit better, just composition wise or whatever.
Yeah.
I do think the bit that really hit the hardest though was Sanji's backstory.
Yeah, I thought that was really well done.
That was good.
Yeah.
I really liked the kind of final confrontation between Luffy and his grandfather.
Yeah.
Also, can we talk about that bombshell for me? I was like, oh, it's his grandfather. When he the moment when he looks through the thing and sees the admiral chasing him, he goes, "Granddad?" It was like, my wife lost it. Like, she started laughing so hard, and I was like, "What? And I was like, well, I did not see this coming at all."
Curveball.
So that was actually one of the big things that they changed. So that particularly is not the change.
Okay.
Okay, so in the anime,
he is his grandfather in the show.
Yes.
In the anime.
Okay, but you don't find that out until episode 300.
Got it. Okay.
Or like 300 and like
throughout
20 or
this,
something like that.
the vice admiral's lurking in the background chasing him, or no? Okay.
So one of the big things is, so whenever he meets Kobe on the love ship or whatever, and then he goes with Kobe to the main island where he meets Zoro. That's where they part ways. After that little bit with the Marine base, and then they pick up Zoro, they're gone. You don't see Kobe again for like it's like 300 or 250.
Okay.
Really?
I think they did a good job then of basically creating those scenes.
Yes.
Basically Oda's headcanon of how does, because presumably Kobe shows up later, right?
Yeah, so one of the big things is that all of those scenes that we have with them do show up, but they're not part of the main story. These show up as side panels like throughout the volumes that just happen, and it's just like, oh, this is what Kobe's up to. Oh, this is what Kobe's up to. But you don't actually get any character interaction with Kobe until like episode 250.
Way down the line. Okay.
Interesting. Yeah. I like what they did in the live action.
Yeah, I thought what they did in the live action.
I think that was
great.
a fantastic addition, because it helps break up the pacing a little bit.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
You also get a little bit more intrigue with what Garp is doing and that kind of thing, because pretty much the whole time, like we don't know what Garp is or who he is, and then he just shows up and you're like, oh, he's Grandpa.
Anytime I get more Garp on screen, I'm happy. I love that guy.
Again, they hit the casting across the board.
Oh yeah,
and like we talk about, some of these the main characters, right? They don't have a lot of credits. They're kind of new, and I think they did a really good job. They're big fans.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what is his name?
Vincent Regan.
Vincent Regan. I want to call him Reagan. I knew that one right.
Yeah. I think it's Regan.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine that he grew up a One Piece fan. You know what I mean? Like because when he grew up was in the 70s. But like, boy, does he, whatever they like showed him to get him to like understand the character or whatever, he sells out.
He really does.
Man.
And can you imagine like being cast as this and you're like, all right, you're going to be this hard dude and you're going to wear a dog cap.
Well, like, again, it feels like one of those things, and I am assuming a lot. I have no idea what he is into. He could be a huge One Piece fan. Maybe his agent is, but like you bring this guy,
his grandson or something. I don't know.
Who knows? Yeah, maybe his kids are into it, so he like was aware of it. But like in my head, it's like he's this serious actor, and they come to him and they're like, "You're gonna have to wear a hat that is definitely looks like a little puppy dog
for today, and it's your standard garb, and then we have this for you." What?
And one of his things in the anime is he absolutely throws cannonballs.
Oh, I'm sure.
Let's put that in the live action. Like, let's go.
Well, I mean, he did it once.
I know, but I want to see like more.
Yeah. So one of his things, one of his big moves, is they literally give him 2 stacks of cannonballs,
and he just
goes nuts.
That's great.
Well, I love the final confrontation between them, not just because I thought the fight was pretty good.
Yeah.
But because of the emotional stakes on it. Yeah. And kind of the whole like, well, I had to be sure, that you would. Well,
because he knows he's never going to change his mind.
Yeah.
But when he says that, I'm like, I can't wait to see where this goes in season 2 now. Like, I got so excited because I was like, wait, what is he? Is he saying he does want him to be a pirate? Was he just trying to make sure he was going to be a pirate? Was he like my brain started going into like
you're strong enough to do the grand
Yeah,
line.
well, because that's
Right.
the thing is like we do have a little bit of a tease at the end where you have someone looking at Luffy's wanted poster and then he basically burns a hole in it. He's not the next big bad guy, but he is the next very dangerous person.
He's going to feature in season 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's definitely a fan favorite.
Okay.
For a lot of people, and he shows up multiple times, and he's got some pretty cool stuff.
Well, I mean, let's
some
talk.
pretty cool stuff. Says
I don't want to give stuff away.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
without giving stuff away, let's talk a little about season 2, right? Because again, like you said, they've confirmed it's greenlit for
It is
season 2.
happening.
They just need the strikes to end. Basically.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the producers said that essentially season 2 is written, and from whenever they
Good.
start, it would be anywhere between 12 to 18 months. So
Totally,
just
like straight up, take your time.
Yeah, take
like,
your
Like
time.
don't rush this. Make it work.
Increase the budget.
Yeah, take a
And
little
take your
extra
time.
money. Take your time.
I really hope that Netflix would be like, hey, let's pour some more money into this.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, this has definitely beaten out a whole lot of Netflix records.
This popped
Yeah.
up the charts quick for them.
Yeah.
I think they got to have a real hit on their hands.
Well, that's another thing, like with Netflix, with like The Witcher, where like I assumed watching the seasons that the budgets went down per season because the special effects and
It
things
just
like
got worse and worse.
got
and
worse. When I looked it up, I was like, no, the budgets went up, and so I'm like, what are y'all doing
where's
with
the
this
money going?
cash? Like, what's happening?
Setting fire. We're cold tonight, boys. Trying to light a pile of money.
Which
on
I think
fire.
speaks to that show's like the showrunner problem potentially, or whatever's happening. The execution is like they're wasting money versus if they gave these people more money, I think they would put it to good use.
I think we
Yeah.
would see just basically kind of an increase in quality. Because again, I don't think it's like, oh, we got more money, we should go get a bigger name actor for this kid. No. You've nailed this throughout.
we
Pour
got
it
it. Yeah.
into more sets and
Yeah.
fights.
Yeah, give me more
and
set
music.
pieces.
Yep.
And hire me an orchestra.
So okay, so as we're kind of wrapping up, favorite fight. Ooh. I already know mine.
Well, go ahead and go.
Yeah,
while
go
we
Okay,
first.
so
ruminate.
mine,
Yeah.
the first fight in the Marine base with Axan Morgan.
Yeah.
It's great because like you get all three of them kind of going crazy, and you just have like these big sweeping shots of just all these Marines just getting their snot kicked in.
Yeah.
It's great.
I would probably go Luffy and his granddad at the very end.
Yeah.
Just because of we just got off the big fight right before
Yeah.
it. And then like this is like I thought we were done. I thought we were winding down.
I will say the final episode had kind of a Return of the King thing going on. We had a couple
did.
false endings.
A little
It
bit,
did, yeah. But then the emotional, I think, weight of that gives it a little more oomph.
Well,
and it's not as long or as elaborate of a fight, but like that, I liked it more in terms of like the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you really get a good kind of like window into not just because these people don't have powers or like devil's fruit powers, they are still incredibly strong.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Steven?
So I think actually my favorite is the fight in the bar before we encounter Axan.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Partly because we get to see a bit of Nami's character, which I love her, where she's like selecting which Marine to hit on.
Too tall.
Too tall. It's like, okay, I think I know where this is going, but still, this is hilarious.
Yeah.
And then the fight breaks out because the little kid gets disrespected, right? So we immediately get to learn a lot about Zoro's character.
Yeah.
We learn a lot about Luffy's character. He's like, this guy's a really strong fighter.
Yep.
I should have him. I need him in my crew,
Yeah,
right?
he needs to be my crew.
And while Kobe is hiding under the
Yeah.
table, like there's so much characterization that takes place in that so early on to establish who these people are at their core.
Yeah.
And also, I think Zoro gets to show off way more than he does in basically any other fight throughout the season.
Except maybe towards the end in Arlong Park when him and Sanji are just basically.
See, that to me, that fight felt more almost like superhero-esque.
It is, yeah.
Whereas
It did, yeah.
the fight in the bar where he's like
Rough and tumble.
He doesn't draw the sword. He blocks with the scabbard. Like it's very close in, and you see very much so like kind of the
Well, because he's not trying to kill people here.
right, and you see like the connections of moves where he's holding back. He's kind of able to flaunt it.
Yeah.
But it's like, hey, when I need to step up and pull another big gun, I can, but I don't have to for your
Yeah.
jumps. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. You're not strong enough.
Yeah, like there's no point in me. Why would I don't have to bear steel for this
Yeah.
if I can just punch you, right?
Yeah, I mean, I really did enjoy Sanji's fighting style as well.
Yeah. Oh, when
Yeah,
they
for sure.
introduced him in the, like when he goes out as the waiter and just immediately puts some dude down, it's like, oh, and then of course Luffy over there is like, ooh, a strong fighter.
Strong fighter.
Right.
Well, so they didn't actually give this explanation in the show, but the reason why he only uses his feet is because
His hands.
his chef
He needs his hands for his chef skills.
Yeah,
Oh.
he needs to be able to cook,
Interesting.
so
I like
he doesn't
that.
use his hands.
Yeah.
I like that a lot, actually.
I like that a whole lot, actually.
They should have. Why didn't they bring that up?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just really love the fact, and I think is what really made me like love Sanji in this one, because I'm not a big fan of the character in the anime.
Well, he's from what you've said and what other people have said, he's kind of a
He's
over the top
lecherous.
perv.
Yeah.
And they've definitely they've moved him from perv to womanizer, which is a more acceptable scale.
Well, it is, and
Sure.
he's not trying to like even in Sanji, he doesn't really try and like assault people, but he's definitely like very much like what you think like an anime perv would be. That's just him.
It's what the Japanese
It's
think
Master
of
Roshi.
for
He's Master
perv.
Roshi, yeah, from the original Dragon Ball.
But yeah, like this one, they matured him up. He's still a ladies' man, but not in the sense that he's trying
it's a
to
more
like
suave.
Yes.
He throws his line down, and if they don't react to it, whatever, I move on. You know,
Yeah,
it's
I'll
not
try the
like
next
it's
line.
not like oh
Right.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, you know, I thought this was a pretty fantastic show.
So recommended.
Yeah, recommend.
I would
rewatch
definitely
for
recommend
sure.
it.
Wholeheartedly recommend. I've already told my wife, because we have to do Wheel of Time season 2, that it may be watch an episode of season 2
And rewatch
then
one of these.
rewatch a One Piece just to feel better about
Palate cleanser.
to feel like, oh, American TV. American TV.
But yeah, definitely recommend. I think it's absolutely worth watching.
For sure.
Yeah, wholeheartedly. This took me by, so like you were very positive about it early on, which I
Yeah.
thought was interesting because well, he's a super fan.
So clearly they're doing something right
They
there.
did the adaptation well, but I was like, well, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to appeal to
Yeah,
me.
for accessible
Yeah.
for
and
someone
then,
that
or just the general population,
Yeah,
right? And so
yeah.
I watched the first episode. I was like, dang, this is fun. This is good.
Yeah. It-
I hope they don't screw this up somewhere down the line.
I think fun is the word I would just use to sum up
Yeah.
the whole series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm honestly really glad that both of you guys enjoyed it, because like
Oh, yeah.
whenever I was like, hey, I think we should do the One Piece live action to review, I was
Yeah.
like, I was kind of saying that as I was cringing, because
I was kind of cringing as I was saying, yeah, we're going to do that probably. Because,
the
I mean,
schedule,
just
the schedule was
historically.
packed, and like
No, that was, when has there been a good anime adaptation?
That also true, yeah,
And when
like,
you tell me it's the
well-
same production company that did Cowboy Bebop, like there's just so many things where I was like, I don't know, man. It's also, again, I don't know a ton about One Piece, but I knew how much I was like, it's unadaptable. What are they going to try to do? Like how could this possibly be good was my thought going
Yeah.
into it. And I was extremely
that
surprised.
was everyone's thought going
Yeah.
into it.
And maybe that's why everybody's so positive, is because everyone just went in assuming it was going to be
gonna be a
bad.
dumpster fire.
And then
They're
maybe
like,
if we went in
"It's not on
expecting it to be
fire."
incredible, we'd be like, yeah, it was fine.
Well, that
But,
means
like,
season 2 has a lot to live up to.
it does.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so before we go, we have to talk about Patreon, because we always have to. For just
Promotion.
$1 a month, you can get access to all of our bonus episodes, commentaries, and
Vote in Patreon
vote
picks
in
polls.
Patreon
You can
picks
dictate
polls.
what
Yep.
we review.
You get everything for $1. We don't say that enough. Everything.
What?
Is there something on our
$1?
Patreon? Give us $1 a month and you can have access to it. Like all of it.
One bonus episode guaranteed every month, sometimes more.
Yep.
And that dollar obviously gives you access to the whole back catalog.
Cadillac. You get all the Cadillacs and catalogs.
We've been talking about Cadillacs in one of our chats, and I cannot avoid that word now. It's so frustrating. But access to the whole back catalog. You can listen to all of our previous bonus episodes. We've got it's different format from this. We get bonkers with it.
Oh, yeah.
Lean into some of the insanity and spend some of your hard-earned Patreon dollars on crazy things like taste testing of Coke products and soft drinks, is what I should say.
I was going to say
drinks.
soft drink. That
We
was a
didn't do
very
just Coke
southern
products.
thing you just did.
It was. I got to
Everything's a Coke.
We got Coke products.
Coca-Cola.
I want a Coke. Which one you want?
Yeah.
But, you know, if $1 just isn't in the cards, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
We'd love for you to check out our Facebook page, give
Yeah.
us a share and a like whenever you see us
Leave
post.
wherever you listen to podcasts, wherever you're listening to this podcast right now, leave us a review. 5
Yeah.
stars will take us to the moon.
We would love it.
We
but
would.
that does sound like all the time we have this week. So until next time, I'm Andrew,
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Steven.
and every spoiler was intended.